Welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight. I'm Judith Quoba, and today I have a new guest. I'm very excited about that. Her name is Henna Maria Vermeulen, and she is from Finland. Originally, where she is right now, I have no idea. She's traveling all the time. She's also the founder of the website dawnofpeace.org, and on that website you will also find her community, the Henna Maria community. So Henna, welcome.
Thank you, Judith. Great to be on.
So what sparked your interest in, let's say, going full activism or researching all these topics and trying to make sense of the world? How did that happen for you?
I've always been a very curious cat. Ever since I was a kid, I was the one who would have to be told to stop asking questions, because I've just naturally been that way. Very, very thirsty for knowledge and very passionate about understanding why things are happening. So I actually started activism already 2009, 2008, I think. I can't remember exactly, with Amnesty. And that was very much related to human rights and refugee rights and things like these. And then I moved on to animal rights. And somewhere along the line, I started realizing that everything is linked. Everything that is kind of upside down in our world, it's all coming from the same root cause. So it's kind of okay, where is it all coming from, really? And what is driving us, into this system of inversion, this system of dominance? So that's been a big kind of, calling for me my whole life, understanding where does human suffering come from and how can we alleviate that. So then from activism, actually, I was called to embark on a path of healing arts and really explore that. How do we heal ourselves on an individual level? And that was related to my own undealt traumas from my childhood and from my youth. And actually my first partner, he took his own life. Oh. And that was a big kind of, path for me that opened through there, that I came very close to death and understood that this is something that in our culture, we know nothing about. There's no words even for this, or there's no container for us to talk about death or what it really means. So that kind of embarked me on this spiritual journey when that happened. Mm-hmm. And then eventually, on my own healing journey. And after I started learning the healing arts and eventually started practicing these ancestral healing arts methods, I came to see that it actually goes hand in hand with activism. That was a way to bring the knowledge of how to heal the individual into how to heal the community. That had the same elements, the same, kind of treatment, the same diagnosis process that needs to take place. So 2019, interestingly, was the year when I decided that I have to put together some kind of a peace collective. I actually first started by thinking whether it should be a religion, because I was becoming aware of the fact that we were turning into a more tyrannical medical system. I was seeing how they started to take away exemptions from people, and mandatory vaccines were coming into the conversation. So 2017, I was actually considering maybe there should be a religion that we can use to protect our bodily sovereignty. But then as the exemptions were being taken away, I realized, okay, that's not the way. So it should be like a collective of activists who understand the underlying cause of all of this, where it's stemming from, whether it's the abuse of animals or the abuse of humans or abuse of nature, that it has a spiritual core. Yeah. So that's when I started 2019 Dawn of Peace. And on our list of causes, there were medical freedom as one of the big ones, and self-sovereignty. And so then interestingly, 2020 was when all these rights actually became under serious attack. So I felt like I'd kind of been prepared for this time my whole life, actually.
Yeah. So would you say that I totally agree that it is really the same root. But in that collective, if you try to heal the collective, the individual has to do the work on themselves. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And this is something that I noticed that had been lacking for many of the groups that I'd been a part of already, whether it was human rights or animal rights. It lacked that introspective space, that the realization that in order to resolve any conflicts in the external, we must first learn to resolve the conflicts inside here. And then only from that place of inner peace can we actually create peace on the external, which is, of course, the foundation of natural law, which is all about the law of correspondence, the cause and effect. So so long as we just look at symptomology, whether it's in terms of human health or in terms of societal health and well-being, and fail to trace its origins, the dysfunction where it stems from, then we can never change the conditions of our collective reality, our aggregate manifested reality. So for me, that was like the fundamental first requirement that the activists that I would love to call to collaborate with me would be those who understand that it starts here, that we have to first take responsibility of how we live our lives and heal our traumas. So then we can have that place, that resonance within us where we can understand with compassion, others who suffer, and where this fear-based behavior comes from, of course, is always the wounded inner child.
So how do you get people to do that work? Because we have a lot of people that, they have done their homework, they have done research, and on the 3D level, they can explain everything to you. Like the banking system and this and that and that. But there comes a point, sometimes when you get to know them a little bit better, where, it shows that, yes, you know all this, but actually you don't have your shit together. So how do we do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I see that a lot as well. There's a lot of knowledge out there. I would say, like, to step into service is really what brings us on that path, because that makes us be humble. And that makes us, like, if we take ourselves out of our platforms where we have our followings and we have our friends and we are in an echo chamber of similarly thinking people, and you put yourself into your own home country somewhere in a city and you start talking to the people on the streets, they don't know you. They have no reason to respect you just by meeting you. So you become humbled because you have to learn how to speak to people, from a place of genuine respect. And so you can't inspire change if you just go and mock people or judge people. Oh, you're wearing a mask, this and that. So I would say that the first step is kind of to step into that place of service and start communicating with people in your neighborhood or in your, city. And then start realizing what are those ingredients that make people behave a certain way. And then they provide a mirror for you to begin to examine yourself and start seeing, wait a minute, I too have been in that same place. There has been a time in my life where I believe that government is a moral institution and that we actually elect these people and they are thinking for our best, or that the pharmaceutical industry is actually selling medicine and trying to help us. And to realize that the way to get people to, come on the side of freedom and humanity is not to mock or attack them in any way. It has to come from compassion. And so I think that process just naturally teaches us a lot. When we get out of our familiar circles and just go out there on the street and start talking to regular people. I think that is kind of a doorway into a lot of self-exploration and introspection as well.
I have to say, my encounters concerning this subject since 2020, they have been very strange. And I remember that I have been yelled at, and conspiracy theorists, and and this yelling and you try to say something or explain something. And I admit, I have moments. I mean, they are far apart. It's not constantly, but I have moments where I think I no longer want to live among those monkeys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I've been there too. I've been told that I am all sorts of things, everything in between the earth and the moon. Yeah. And yet it's like, it's realizing that it's really just the agony of the collective that's coming through. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, it's nothing personal, right? It's just that these people have been tortured. Everything's been taken away from them, and the narrative that they've been told is that it's because of people like us that this nightmare is continuing. So they put their frustrations onto us because they think it's because you disobey that the lockdowns have to continue. And so it's a really tricky balance.
The ones that are starting to defend their own enslavement, those are the ones that really can push me over the edge.
Yes, yeah. I know.
Which sometimes leads to the fact that I'm more like, a hermit.
I live in the middle of nowhere for that reason, I gotta tell you. I live here, I have my own space, nobody's gonna tell me what to do and when. And then when I go out there, I'm charged, I'm prepared. It's like, you know, Neo and them going into Matrix, like just on a mission. Okay, I'm going to the mask hell now. Just be prepared for everything. Anything can take place. Yeah.
So I have shared one short clip of yours, and that was last year when you did the march in Spain with the police. And I found that remarkable that even happened. But we have a lot of people that say all these protests are null and void, it doesn't do anything, it's totally useless. What would you say to people?
Mm-hmm. Well, they have several different functions. They can sometimes be useless. It depends on what is the intention and the strategy of the march. So for instance, this one, a big part of the intention of this march was to demonstrate that the police and the citizens can be on the same side. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of a direct attack against the media narrative, which is that we should be hating the police. That is one of the biggest things that they've been creating is a lot of distrust and hatred between, you know, us civilians and the police. And so when we march together, it disarms them from one of their weapons that they are using to mind control us. So it's to show that actually we have what it takes, we can collaborate. And another part, of course, is to share information. So if the speeches of the event are carefully planned in a way where it's actually enlightening people and providing them a lot of good feedback on what they can actually do at home in their everyday lives to further our cause, you know, to stand up for freedom, then it becomes an immensely powerful thing for those of us who are present, because then we can share that message with our communities, our friends, and our families. So, you know, things like taking your money out of corporate banks, what to do actually with your money that you have, so that it's not serving the propaganda and all of this crazy enslavement agenda. You know, like how to purify water, things like very practical things, tricks like cloudbusters, how you can build these gadgets that you can clear in electromagnetic radiation and these chemtrails from the air. So if we think that that is an opportunity for us to share uncensored truth, because nobody can censor you when you're speaking on a mic unless the police, you know, do that. But our marches that are organized with the police, they've actually gone, they've been perfect. There's been not a single arrest, no any kind of disturbances, pepper sprays, no violence at all. So when they've been well organized with strategy, liaised with the local police, you can create a very safe space for everyone to express themselves. And so that's a wonderful way to get a message out without being censored to the masses, is in their demonstrations. And then, of course, another element of that is to find each other. So Police for Freedom, now it's turned into an international movement, and we have already in 10 different countries a chapter. And one of the success stories that we have is in Holland. And there what has happened is all the different sections of society that are taking part in these marches, they wear some kind of outfit that lets other people know what work they represent. If they are a nurse, they will have a red kind of sleeve with a heart. You know, if they are a teacher, they wear something else. If they're a soldier, they wear their uniforms. So if you are a teacher or a nurse or a veteran, then you can spot, there's my kindred spirits. And then they start organizing among themselves. So then you start having these, groups that are forming, which become the foundation for the parallel society, which we are building, of course. Mm-hmm. So the big marches are a great way to find each other and organize ourselves. And then, of course, if we bring flyers and like educative material, like written law documents, things for entrepreneurs and businesses, how you can stay open, legal documents, then we can just go and hand it out to the community, to the people, and say, look, find out this, read that. So it's also a wonderful way to build bridges and connect and inform the locals. Mm. So I see that it has potentially many really positive effects if it's organized well and with thought. But if it's just a bunch of frustrated people who go chanting on the streets, then I think it is a waste of time and it can just create chaos. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been in demonstrations where the police really went overboard?
No, I haven't. I got to say, I've been really blessed. It's because every demonstration that I've been a part of have been very well organized, mm-hmm. and always with strategy that there's been peacekeepers present and a lot of good liaison, meaning negotiation with the police prior to the event and during the event as well. Mm. So it's worked wonders. And I got to say, one last thing that is a wonderful thing to do with demonstrations is to build a kind of an energy vortex in the city. So you can choose an area which is significant energetically. And in our last march, about 3 weeks ago here in Malaga, what we did is we sang together. We sang one of the most epic, kind of iconic freedom songs, actually from the Franco times, which is about a bird flying out of its cage. And we sang it together in the city square in Plaza de la Constitución. And then after that, we went to another plaza and we all held hands and we ommed together. And just the frequency coming out was just amazing. So we can also do it just to crack through the veil that has been casted over humanity, which is this grid of darkness and, fear-based, trauma-based mind control. So we can just emanate joy and crack, make some cracks into it.
Yeah. Here in Germany, the police really went overboard so many times. And at the beginning of this month, 1st of August, the protest in Berlin, of course, all those protests have been banned by our wonderful government. And, but they came anyway. And I have to say it got so bad that now I always forget that not High Commissioner, well, anyway, he was from the UN, and he was and he went on Twitter and said that he had seen these images and that he wants people to send him eyewitness reports and more insight into what was going on. And he actually started an investigation, and he is for a special rapporteur, that is the word that I was looking for, a special rapporteur for torture. So, wow. But what we have seen here, that was, and I have to say, honestly, it makes it easy to hate the police, when it gets that bad.
Yeah, I've seen footage, you know. Thankfully, I've never been present in such events, but I've seen footage from Germany and Belgium and Holland and UK, and it's been crazy. But at the same time, it's like, and from Melbourne lately, there's been so much violence there also, rubber bullets and pepper sprays being indiscriminately sprayed, whether it's media or, you know, journalists or whom. But like that is from what we are doing with Police for Freedom is if there is risk of violent repression like that, then we should consider alternative strategies. And for instance, what we're doing in Australia with the Police for Freedom is small local gatherings in villages. So if we think that our idea is to communicate to our fellow citizens and get the message out, get the information to them, because obviously they're finding it hard to get to the information because everything is censored, and not most people honestly don't know how to find out information outside of Google. They don't even know that there is such a thing as DuckDuckGo or Telegram, or, you know, it's all new world for them. So we have to be that bridge to bring that good information to them. So what they're doing there is that they're not creating big marches, because they know that when there is a total lockdown and marches are banned, then if you do that anyway, then there's a risk that there will be like special ops present and there will be horrendous violence. And so we recognize that doing that actually is a disservice, because it will create trauma for both activists and police. It will give all the ingredients for the media to fuel their agenda of A, we should hate the police and cannot trust them, and B, we should defund the police, which of course is just a slippery slope into getting some kind of UN troops or transhuman robots or, you know, military on the streets. So we don't want to, you know, defund our local police, because their children go to the same schools as ours, and they are people that we share our community with. So our approach is to protect them, protect the local police, by collaborating with them as much as possible and not challenging when there are orders coming from the Interior Ministry saying that this is not allowed. The police have very little to say at that point. And then if you say we're coming anyway, well, in their eyes, especially if there's no liaison before, in their books, it's actually a terrorist threat. They don't know, are there going to be guns on the street? What are they going to do? Are they going to break into businesses? Is there going to be looting? So they come with this Terminator gear, you know, with the shields and the black helmets and looking as dehumanized as possible to create more intimidation. So if we think that, okay, that's the outcome, what's going to come if we go against these mandates at this point, is just more trauma and more division in our society rather than healing the division that's already there, then we have to change the strategy. And then we can do it things like, you know, do it in a way where the police are not, you know, needing to like demonstrate their authority in an aggressive way, and do small events. For instance, you could do in Berlin, you could do 100 little events at the same time. It could be coordinated in a way where it's maximum 10 people in a significant place in a city, all around, sharing flyers, giving speeches, you know, doctors, lawyers, whoever are present, and really like make a case of that we are not here to create more chaos or fight. We just want to be heard. So I think that is an opportunity for us to just think really like, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, long-term goals. What is the strategy? What are we working towards? The government has never changed because of people on the streets. So we're not doing it to change the government. We're doing it to get into the hearts and minds of our fellow citizens, to get the information to them and to explain, look, it's about our fundamental rights. It's not about a virus.
Yeah, exactly. So if memory serves, I read on your website that you worked as a translator for the UN. Is that correct? And then,
yes.
And then you mentioned that as a translator, you do not have a voice. And so you left that position. And now looking back, I mean, we know about UN Agenda 2030 and so on and so on. So how do you see the UN today?
Yeah, well, back then I was studying multicultural communications and translation science. And so I was a simultaneous interpreter for the Finnish Defense Forces. And they specifically, when they were collaborating with the UN to train peacekeepers around the world. So they would come for these simulations where there were conflict situations and kind of like role play, where the peacekeepers had to learn how to work together with an interpreter when they're on the field. So my job was to be the interpreter for these different teams that came to train. And I saw a lot of, good stuff there while I was there as well, in terms of negotiation skills, how conflicts can be unconsciously created, cultural differences, different kind of traps that can be set. But it never went deeper than that. So, I never, of course, found out about what are the underlying motives for sending in these troops. Afterwards, I found out from some of the people that were these peacekeepers that they had to do things that for me didn't sound like peacekeeping at all. Yeah. So even including taking somebody's life.
Yeah,
so,
and raping.
Yes. So
yeah, that is very rampant.
Exactly, that they are not the good guys. And the more I like understand the monstrosity of this Agenda 21, and the 30-year milestone of it, the Agenda 2030, the more I realize that they have been created for this purpose. Yeah. And this Declaration of Universal, human rights, it's just a PR campaign after the Second World War to make us feel like somehow now we'll never let that happen again. There'll never be another tyranny. There'll never be another genocide, because this declaration is supposed to be in effect today. And what is the reality? Nobody cares. Sometimes my heart is bleeding when I think of us human beings, standing there with this piece of paper, like trying to say, look, what about the declaration? And they are just laughing at our faces and saying, you really believe that means something? It's just a joke. Yeah. It doesn't mean anything. That's what I've come to see. And I've been so disappointed with Amnesty, having worked for them in the past. And I thought back then, over 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that they were doing some very important work when it came to like victims of torture and getting, prisoners of conscience out. And now they haven't done anything. And this is like the most horrendous worldwide attack against fundamental human rights. And same with the Human Rights Watch. I actually wrote to all of them in the beginning of the pandemic in April last year, saying, what are you going to do about this? Who's going to defend our rights now that our governments are turning treasonous and killing people with the lockdowns? I didn't get a response.
No, of course not. Yeah.
No. So I'm just seeing that they've been made for that purpose. And, you start looking into eugenics and how these things connect. And it's pretty sobering to realize that it's just a one world government agenda that they are trying to bring on with this.
Yeah. Have you seen that short video clip by Dr. Gilbert, which he did in the 1990s? Where he talked about mandatory needlecraft.
No.
And that will come, and that it also has to do with energy fields that can be manipulated via technology. And at the end of that clip, he said, and don't think this is science fiction, it has been done, think of Rwanda. And there I have to say that especially the UN troops, I mean, what a lousy job they did there, during that genocide in Rwanda. And so what Dr. Gilbert obviously was hinting at is that, it can be done via technology to get two groups of in that case, it was the Hutus and the Tutsis, to kill each other. It's a form of mind control.
Absolutely, yes. And the masking was a big part of, getting that division into our societies. I personally have 3 friends who were abused because of not wearing a mask. And one of them was attacked, older man, walking outside a supermarket. He's part of our activist group. And another guy just beat him up. He lost teeth, he broke bones, just beat him up. First he said to him, "Where's your mask?" And my friend just said, like, "Come on, just let it be." And the guy just beat him up. Another one was outside of his own apartment building here in Spain. It was a group, it's a mob of people that beat him up. And he said at the end of, he kept asking for help. He kept screaming for help, for people to come and support him. And there were many eyewitnesses. They were just watching him being like the shit kicked out of him. And he said at the end of the whole episode, there was a pool of blood where he was lying. And the only thing the neighbors did was to came and clean away the blood. Nobody called the police. Nobody called the ambulance. He was just left outside of his own home. And a third one was actually by the police. A woman, one of my friends, was in the train without a mask. And the train workers actually called another train, stopped the train, got all the other passengers to go into the other train, kept her there by force until the police came. The police came and just beat her up, although she has a medical exemption. All these actually had medical exemption not to wear a mask. So when you start seeing violence like that, just because somebody is not complying, even though they have a medical reason not to, you realize that we are literally on a path to genocide. And this is why I've been talking about it from the get-go with this name, because I think the sooner we can get into that realization that this is a path to genocide, the faster we can start actually taking serious action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you also made a very, very brilliant video about, I think it's called The Harsh Truth.
Yeah.
And I found that very eloquent, what you said in that video. And I think another misconception that some people have is that truth does not need to be defended. And I think that is totally wrong, because if nobody, speaks the truth, if nobody stands up and says, no, wait a minute, here, A, B, C, D. Yes, the truth is still there in the background, but that does not need to be defended. No, I totally disagree. What say you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's largely to do with this kind of culture of the new age way of being, that just accept everything is perfect, and I don't want to get involved because there may be conflict there, and conflict is very undesirable because I want to change, stay in my kind of
in my bubble.
my illusory Buddha state where I just want to sit under the Bodhi tree and although the world is being like hijacked. And so yes, I think that is a big problem now, is people's inability to confront reality and really name things for what they are, stand up for the truth. Yeah, I'm totally with you.
Yeah. We have another saying that goes like this: bond with people that are seeking the truth, but stay away from those who claim to have found it.
Well, I don't know. Truth is knowable also. There are, if you define truth as what has happened and what is actually happening now, then that is truth that we can tap into and know. But then when it comes into deeper levels of truth, of course, there are mysteries that we cannot comprehend. And I think that is what keeps us humble, if we can admit to ourselves that there are things that we don't know.
Have you, I lost my thought, my goodness. So.
That video actually I made in Peru. We were stuck there first when the lockdowns began. We were in the Andes of Peru. And it was quite interesting to see how they seem to have like Spanish shadow government or something, because they did everything exactly the same way as in Spain at the same time. And we were not expecting that, because we'd spent years there already, and it felt to be very kind of grounded in natural world and sacred traditions, and we felt that there was an element of freedom there that we couldn't find here in the West. And so when they had this harsh lockdown and armed men on the street overnight, it was quite shocking for us. And they even had some crazy arbitrary restrictions that I haven't even heard anywhere else, whereas, for instance, there was a day where only women were allowed to go outside and only men were allowed the next day, and it would change Mondays and Wednesdays, women, Tuesdays and Thursdays, men. Children were not allowed out all the entire time. And then you would even have these, like, you'd have these indoor marketplaces, where you could go buy vegetables and fruits. You would have this kind of like a cattle port that you had to walk through, which was these sprays. You'd have to be disinfected, like you had to walk through that to enter the place. It was sort of really mad. It's a crazy experience.
Yeah, I would not have expected that from Peru, to be honest.
No, and they were one of the harshest lockdowns. I believe it lasted until October there. That when the rest of the world started opening up, kind of end of May and June, they kept going with the lockdowns. So I also have a feeling that they are very much targeting cultures where there is still a lot of indigenous wisdom and indigenous peoples. That's kind of like this feeling I have, the pit in my stomach, that they really want to destroy these indigenous cultures.
Oh yeah, and the tribes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because the tribes, we cannot have that.
Yeah, they know how to live in harmony. Yes, it's because they would destroy their kind of narrative of what is the sustainability that they're trying to sell us. That it's all about the green revolution. So God forbid you have an indigenous person telling you what real sustainability is, because it's nothing like what these guys are trying to sell with their monocrop, genetically modified plants-like organisms and AI, transhuman stuff and all this radiation, which is incredibly harmful to nature. So yeah, their stuff has nothing to do with real environmental values.
No. And I have to say, there's nothing green about that entire agenda, because, ships are still allowed to dump their garbage in the ocean, and so and stuff like that, where we could have said stop, no more, years ago. Yeah, it's still going on, and nobody cares. It's only about CO2, and it's such nonsense.
I know, it's total nonsense. And the same with the weapons production industry. Like, why don't we, they pollute quite a bit. Why don't we talk about that? Why don't we just stop killing people? Why don't we stop all wars? How about that? Why don't we start there? Nobody talks about that. It's like, oh, it's okay just to bomb innocent women and children everywhere and people to starve. But somehow the CO2 footprint. Yeah, it's madness, really.
Futures for Fridays. No, Fridays for futures. Yeah, but when you look a little bit, especially here, Greta Thunberg, if you look a little bit, you do not even have to scratch a lot, but this one eye symbolism is very, very dominant in a lot of pictures of her, even her parents. And there is a magazine where her mother was on the front cover.
Yeah.
And the headline said, "We all sell our souls to the devil."
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't make that up. It's really in your face, and I don't know why people think that is the biggest problem that we have.
It's just the same old mind control, trauma-based mind control. You give the idea of, oh, in 12 years, we're going to have mass extinction. And then they just keep repeating it. And that repetition just starts taking hold. I have a very interesting experience myself about the one eye, with the one eye thing. I was interviewed for a very esteemed magazine in Finland this spring. And I knew that it's going to be some kind of smear attempt. But I asked that, can I record the interview myself, the whole thing? And can I see it before you publish it as kind of conditions for the story? Because I thought, well, even if I manage to get a grain of truth out there, it's still worth it. And I don't live in Finland, so it doesn't matter if they make a freak out of me. So I thought, it's fine, I'm going to take a risk. And also out of curiosity, just to see, how does the mainstream media work, like really? So I had this 3.5-hour interview, which was really intense, divided into two separate days. And it was supposed to be like a private kind of like profile of me as an activist. Who am I? But then the final story wasn't that at all. The final story was like the profile of conspiracy theorist, conspiracy-minded people. And it was not just me, it was other people as well. And it was, yeah, you don't want to know. But the interesting thing was the pictures. So they asked if they can do a photo shoot of me. And where would I like to do it? And I said, well, I'd love to do it somewhere in nature, because that's, my biggest love, the natural medicine and healing arts. It's a big part of my life. So if we could be somewhere where there's trees, that would be beautiful. And okay, they agreed. We went to this beautiful park near the sea in the shore in Helsinki. And they said they're going to do like an artistic photo shoot of me with the trees, which is going to like describe, yes, that this is going to describe my connection to the trees. And they had me standing. So if you imagine there's several trees, they had me standing in one place, and the photographer was moving around in a way that you had a picture. I wasn't aware of this, but it was on the magazine afterwards, where I am standing and only one of my eyes were showing. Another picture was where it was very windy because we're by the sea. My hair is, flopping everywhere. And she kept saying, like, move your face like this, and we get this. It was sunset. We'll get the sunset beautifully on your face. So a few times I did something like this, and of course they have a picture of me where I'm like this again, with one eye. So I don't know about this. Towards the end of the photo shoot, they asked me if I would be willing to cover my one eye like this with my hand. Mm-hmm. Oh no! They said like this and like this. To look between. Okay, yeah. Mm. And I said, no, I really don't like the symbol of the one eye. Like, I really do not want such a picture. And then they said, okay, well, how about you cover both of your hands and we draw an eye on both of them. And then I said, why? And they said, oh, it would be a symbol for how you believe that you are the only one who can see and everyone else around you is blind. And that's when I had this like sickening feeling in my stomach, like, oh my God, like they're really trying to set me up, like in a kind of sinister way, not just to make me in some wacko by something dark, And I was like, no, I really don't like that at all. And I made it very clear that I'm not in, and I don't think everyone else around me is blind. Many people know what's going on, like what's going on. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, it's just an artistic idea, la, la, la.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So if you want, I can send you those pictures and you can put them on the show so people see what they did. And the interesting thing was that it was sunny. It was beautiful golden light, like the most gorgeous colors. But they put this like sewage green black filter on me. So even the world of the colors was like really dark and spooky. So just as a kind of a example that sometimes the editors and the photographers actually trick you into those one-eye poses. So some of the people out there who have those one-eye pictures, they may not even have known what's happening, They took all sorts of artistic poses and, do this, do that. And
yeah,
so they're very sly.
I know what you mean, but some people really have too many of them.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. If you do it once, you should know, like, never again, So I've already made it my next criteria. Like, if I'm ever in a photo shoot again, both of my eyes have to be showing in all pictures. Yeah. And I didn't get to see the pictures. That was the mistake I made as well. I didn't get to see the pictures prior to it was actually being published. So it was just a shock when I had to see the magazine, like, oh my God. Yeah.
Would you do it again with mainstream media after that experience?
I would, because you know what happened? I published the 3.5-hour interview on YouTube, and it had I think it was couple of like 20,000 views or something. And as a result, there was a huge wave of people who discontinued ordering this magazine, because this is one of the most respected magazines in Finland. Mm-hmm. And I had many journalists even contacting me saying, wow, what filth that we listened to your actual original interview and they have completely twisted it up and put it in a nasty frame, like it's totally an agenda against you. And so it actually turned against them. And on their Facebook page where they posted it, it was the most amount of comments ever on any of their posts. And so many people calling them out and saying, wow, you are lying. And the way they framed me, the front, because I was on the front cover, it even said, science is unanimous. 3 million people have died, and yet Henna Vermeulen does not believe in the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. So even just the claim that science is unanimous, that is a blatant lie as well. So many people who aren't even as critical as myself were attacking them for that. Like, how can you claim that? Like, science is not unanimous about this at all. Yeah. So I think that was a really wonderful opportunity to expose how they work. And actually, I would do it again. It didn't do anything negative to me, that's for sure.
Yeah, but only on your terms. And if you have the original interview and you have something tangible that you can put against that, what they, okay.
That's it. So you show what really went on, and then you actually help expose how they manipulate perception, how they manipulate public opinion. Through these agenda pieces that they make all the time.
Yeah. That reminds me, a couple of years ago, that was when Obama was still in office, there was an interview of CNN's Amanpour, and she interviewed an anchor from Russia Today. And then you saw, and Russia Today did the same thing. They had filmed the entire interview, and then when you watch that and you watch the other one, what CNN, how they cut it, how they edited it, it's a totally different interview.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see how they do that, really. It's ruthless. And also, not the journalists themselves may not even get to have a say. That's the sad part. You know, it can be the editors at the top of the magazine who say, no, you make it like this.
Yeah, but in that case, you know, if in that moment you don't comprehend that, you're just a puppet as a journalist, I mean, what else has to happen?
Yeah, no, you're not a journalist anymore. Then, you know, you're something else, definitely.
Yeah. And science is also not about consensus.
No.
Science, you know, science lives and dies with, you know, questioning everything, rethinking things, doing new experiments, observing them, measuring it, and see the outcome. So if that really becomes, how shall I say that, the collective attitude that science is about consensus, or we are doomed. We will never make any progress again.
I know. It's the same thing that the climate hysteria people use. They say 97% of scientists agree. And I've actually seen like the original study that they refer to, and it's a very small number of scientists out of which that were part of the study. And out of that, I think it was something like 17 scientists. And out of that, 97 agreed that like it's man-made, this whatever, climate change. So, but what if you have like 80,000 scientists in the world? So what is the 97% from this small group? So it's crazy how they manipulate that once again. Yeah. And that's the funny part. Like you have people telling to you and I and people like us that, oh, you're against science, you're anti-science. And it's like, no, actually, we want to restore true science, which is that we're allowed to ask questions and nobody's demonized or vilified just because we want to double check, let's verify, let's look at the PCR test. Is it actually a diagnostic tool? What did Carrie Mullis say? Just basic logic and reason. But it's being made into a religion, it's a new state religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Politics and science can substitute religion.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we also had the last couple of years this QAnon phenomenon, and millions of people hang their head on that, even today, that there is this mysterious group of white hats coming to save the day, and you just wait. And the goalpost, allegedly Trump should have come back in August this year, and now the goalpost has been moved again.
Yeah, keeps on moving, funnily.
How does that happen, that people are so easily fooled by such nonsense?
Yeah, you put it very well. It is nonsense, but it's a tried and tested formula. They did it in the Bolshevik regime. They had the same exact thing, the Operation Trust back then, where it was a counterintelligence operation to gather the resistance under this umbrella of trust. We have, these high-ranking officials in government places and in the military who are going to take over, and in the meantime, collecting a lot of intel from the resistance, I think it's a lot of these people who buy the Q story. I feel that they are right brain imbalanced individuals, recently woken up. So they don't have experience of the double bluff, what the government likes to do a lot. They don't yet know quite how it works. But they find a lot of truthful information coming from this source, because it is, of course, you have to mix it with truth for it to be credible. And they latch onto that, as this kind of only hope that my world still makes sense. The world is still a good place because, these good people are out there doing it for us. And it's very difficult to let go of that and come to see that actually, we are the ones, and that we have the responsibility. So I see it's a very kind of, not wanting to be rude or harsh, but kind of infantile mentality, that draws people to believe in. It's this savior complex. There's someone else.
Savior program.
Yeah, savior program. Mother or father is going to do it for us. So, yeah, and it just keeps on, like you said, it just keeps on moving. So Trump was supposed to stop the vaccines. Well, the vaccines are rolling out. They're even advocating for the vaccines, but somehow that's part of the plan too. And that the 5G was rolled out. No, but Trump made it not dangerous. We have the good 5G here. So it's kind of this infantile fantasy, which is a self-defense mechanism. It's a way to self-soothe.
And what would you say about the players who are promoting it? And some of them are quite popular. I recently saw there is an article on the website Washington Standard, and that article is called Robert F. Kennedy Jr. blows the whistle on Pfizer donating $2 million to Trump's inauguration. So, and after that, because in the beginning there was negotiations that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he should come into his administration and see how get studies out, do the studies, get them out, what kind of injuries do we have in general, and so on and so forth. So after that donation of $2 million, that whole thing collapsed. It was never talked about again. And but this individual And yeah, she's banned from YouTube now, but she had hundreds, thousands of followers. So, and still she's defending that an entire Trump thing. So that, okay, newly awakened people can fall for that nonsense. I understand that. But what do you make of those people who are promoting it, who should know better?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it that they are part of the controlled opposition, you know, which job is to purposefully lead people astray? I see one of the tasks of these infiltrators is to generate false hope, because it paralyzes you, you know, it makes you more passive. So there are several different things going on. The QAnon is one huge one. I think it was it Sayerji who launched the term hopium. I think it's a really good term for it, hopium. But you know, then there's also this kind of Freedom Airways. I remember when that was launched last year, and it was lots of hope. Oh wow, no problem, we're going to get to travel, no PCRs, you know, no vaccines. And then you start looking into it, like, so what is this thing about? And you can hire a private jet for 80,000 euros. Okay, so that's the service that we've been promoted to buy. Mm-hmm. So that's a biggie, you know, that's a big one, that they generate hope, false hope, consciously. And there are other things that I'm extremely concerned about as well. And some of them are creating independent police force, which can get you into very severe trouble. For instance, in UK, there's still death penalty for treason. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have the mandate of the masses, if you don't have the majority of the population on your side, and you start creating movements like the Guardians 300, which is about, you know, common law constables, basically their own independent police force, then I'm extremely concerned that that can lead to charges of treason for these people. Mm. So there's, you know, a fine line between standing up for your rights, but you have to do it with extremely well thought strategy that is not going to lead people astray and, you know, put them into severe danger as well. So I see that the way we have to do it is the way that Gandhi did it. It's just to empower the masses, just, you know, help everyday people come to find the truth and start a massive civil disobedience campaign, and just withdraw our energy away from this system of dominance through our everyday actions. You know, what do we vote with our money? Do we support local businesses, or do we go to the big chain stores? That's a huge part of it. Refusing to shut down your business in the lockdown, you know, and then locally supporting them. All of these things we can do, which make a big difference without having to, you know, try and create some kind of revolution and take down the government like that, you know.
Do you think that we can turn this thing around and do that peacefully?
I think we can peacefully create a parallel society. Yeah. Because that's already happening. I'm already seeing people are not waiting for any permissions. They're already getting into it. They're starting to create, you know, local trading schemes here in Spain. We have already this Algarve, which is kind of a currency that's based on a trading system. And you have markets happening every weekend where people bring whatever they want to kind of sell, and everything has its own value, and you trade amongst each other. You have, you know, people starting to create unlearning programs and like these kind of freedom sovereignty schools for children, homeschooling programs. You know, people are starting to learn how to grow their own food and make their own clothes, and sustainable energies from, you know, hydroponics and all this stuff. So I'm seeing that no matter what, there's a huge group of very creative and resourceful individuals who are building a new society, a parallel society, which is based on freedom and creativity. But I think this juggernaut of this transhumanist fourth industrial revolution, I don't know whether we can stop that. I don't want to say either way, but I don't know if it's possible, because there's so much money behind it. They can just buy whatever's on their way. They can buy, they can buy presidents, they can buy corporations, they can buy lands. But my kind of prayer is that it will get so dystopian that once those smart cities are erected, people will come to realize that they want to hop over to our eco villages on the other side of the fence, and that they don't want to be a part of this, technocratic slave society, which they are building. So, and knowing that all empires have collapsed, I don't believe this will last too long, even if they do manage to build it. But it's so dehumanizing and demoralizing that I honestly believe that there's going to be a lot of new souls coming in now, children who are not going to stand for that.
Yeah. I surely hope so. And in the long run, you cannot govern totally against the population. Yes, you can do it for a while, but sooner or later it will collapse. Every attempt in history has collapsed. So now this time they think they have their AI and they have the technology manipulating magnetic fields, so and so forth, and getting you under control that way. Maybe sending a certain pulse out, and that goes to every smartphone that is in the pocket of somebody. One of the reasons why I do not have any cell phones.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm very stubborn that way.
I have an aunt actually who lives in Germany, and she for like a couple of decades was refusing to have a cell phone. So there's something about Germany.
Yeah, but honestly, if just think about it for a second. If 10 million people decided tomorrow, I throw that fucking thing away. So now what with your funny control grid? The passport, game over.
Yeah.
Game over.
But I fantasize about burning my iPhone, just putting it into the fire.
Because a lot of that control grid hinges on that.
Yes, it's true. It's ruled by consent. We consent to being monitored as soon as we consent to having these so-called smart systems, which is just another word for spyware. It's all just surveillance technology.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah, so I saw that in 2012. I thought this is that was even, I don't know, was it 2012? Well, anyway, it was shortly before all these the first iPhone came on the market, and then I looked at that and I thought, this is going into a direction that I despise. So here, gone.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
So have you even got like a so-called dumb phone, one that you can make calls with?
You know what? I thought that I cannot order food online because there is a chance that after the so-called election here in Germany, they will do that also for supermarkets. Yeah. And for quite a while, you couldn't order online without a mobile phone. But now I found a company where I can, and so I have ordered the very, very plain thing, but then it turned out that I don't need it. So it's lying around here somewhere, and the how do you call that chip that you have to put in there? It has never been SIM card, exactly. Thank you. And that has never been activated. It's just lying here.
Okay, that's great.
And I even did that during the time when I was still working as a flight attendant.
Wow, you worked as a flight attendant?
Yeah, for 35 years. No, 37 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Do you still know some people who are now working as a flight attendant?
Yes, I know, but I hardly ever meet them because our company, they went bankrupt.
Okay.
And that was in 2017. And my first reaction to this was, oh my goodness, it's finally over. And so, yeah, then of course you have to think about how you play that thing strategically.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, I loved it because I wanted to see this strange place, yeah, where I live.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I worked in the airline business during the best times. That I started in 1980, and we had 1 week layovers in Bangkok, in Los Angeles, in New York. We had it in Windhoek, Maldives. We all learned scuba diving and so on and so forth. So I had really a great time.
Yeah.
But then that changed, and it changed more. And at the end of that process, it was just exhausting and nothing else. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine now what it must be like with all the
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm at the end.
tests and masks.
And that was the other thing. I thought, I think the universe wants you to stop doing that. This is yeah, a huge signboard. You, Judith Quoba, you will stop flying now. And
Yeah.
I accepted that. I let it go. And yeah, and then other things happened. I had a brain surgery at the end of 2019, and now I'm out of the workforce anyhow because I have some leftovers from that brain surgery and so on and so forth. But yeah, I personally, starting with August 2017, it was a very interesting ride.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, but I have this tendency always, no matter what, to stay calm. But that is, you know, it came with a package. I didn't have to fight for that. Even in that in that moment when I was in the hospital, and they picked me up with the ambulance, and then the doctor came, and he was fiddling around with his iPhone. And while he was fiddling on his phone, he told me that I have a brain tumor. And I looked at him, you know, and I thought, oh my goodness. And now think, this idiot is doing that to somebody that is full of fear, doesn't know what's going on, and is not that relaxed as you are now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I thought, my goodness, how insensitive. You do not fiddle with your fucking phone if you tell somebody. Yeah, here.
No, they lack so much basic, like human contact skills. Yeah. I just, you know, sadly, I feel very few of them actually have a genuine connection, human connection. And it's, yeah, licensed drug dealers mostly.
Yeah, exactly. Pushers.
Yeah.
Pushers, yeah, for the pharma industry. But,
exactly.
But yeah, you know, the entire thing, this gulag that calls itself hospital, there seems to be no awareness how important food is for health. Yeah, the crap that they are feeding you there is unbelievable. And they put all the patients into this Wi-Fi soup 24/7. Yeah, I mean, what's going on there? And we can even start talking about the buildings. Yeah, energies do not flow very well in rectangle buildings. Yeah, it's better in round buildings.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but none of that. no knowledge, no awareness, nothing. And so I had a hard time taking them seriously. And but the good news was my tumor was not malignant, so they just took it out. It had to be done because I could no longer stand upright and I was vomiting all the time. So it had to be done. But other than that, I would not have gone for radiation and chemo. Definitely not. No.
Yeah. There's so much the body can heal, but that attack that those so-called treatments do, it's very hard for the body.
Yeah, I know. My mother has done it twice, and she's still alive. And so
wow.
And that really took a toll on her.
Yeah, I'm hoping that through this whole COVID, this whole narrative, we are starting to see through this deception of the Western allopathic system more and more, and coming to realize that is actually one of the top causes of death worldwide. My one of my friends, Dawn Lester, in our Dawn of Peace collective, she's written a blog where she explains that actually it's the #1 cause of death in the world. Johns Hopkins University says it's the 3rd leading cause of death, but beyond that you have the heart disease, and there was one other. But she says that the toxic drugs that heart disease patients get is actually what they die from in the end. So and even up to HIV and AIDS and all of these different narratives about polio and smallpox and the Spanish flu. So all of that is starting to be revealed now. And the fact that these industries and these treatments, that how much money they make from them now, how much money they get, these incentives for if you put someone on a ventilator, how much money a hospital gets from that. So it's like there's this monstrous lie that we've been blind to for decades that is now finally starting to be revealed. So this is something that I'm grateful for, although however morbid this whole situation is and how many lives it's costing to humanity, still there is a rapid wave of awakening that is happening. People are starting to discover natural medicine and starting to learn how the body actually functions, and our immune system, or it's not really even an immune system, it's a healing system, it's a detoxification system. So this is what we are now discovering, and we know about morphic resonance. So the more of us learn this and start to embody that knowledge, the faster and easier it is for the rest to awaken to it as well. So it's like the 100th monkey effect. So I have a lot of hope that out of this is going to come a lot of personal empowerment and return the renaissance of natural medicine, if you will.
How do you personally stay positive during these times? I mean, I have to say, I have moments where I would like to run out and go, ah!
Yeah. I've done it once. Yeah, in Peru, I really lost it one time. I gotta say that I was walking in the mountain, and because they had the armed men on the streets, you had to wear a mask, although I already knew back then that the mask was bad news. But because of the altitude, we were over 3 kilometers high. I was really struggling to breathe, even without the mask. So with the mask, it was like, a recipe for a disaster.
Suffocating me.
Yeah, I put it like this. Police car pulled over by my side and started saying, put your mask up, put your mask up, put your mask up, put your mask up. Finally, I had this moment where I just took the whole mask off, and I was just like, fuck you. I just started screaming. Like, I'm a human being. I'm not a criminal. And I just really red hot lava just came out of me. Then my husband, bless him, he just leapt in front of me and she's like, she's on her menstruation. Forgive her, please. Suddenly we had armed men around us saying that, oh, you can get 7 years in prison if you disrespect the police officer in Peru. And I was just like, oh my God, what happened there? But I know what you mean. Oh my God, that was a hard one. But yeah, nothing happened in the end. Didn't get put into prison. But I would just say that being authentic to my feelings is what keeps me sane. I've been crying a lot, just shed so many tears this time. I write, I journal, I play music. I live in nature, so I'm constantly charged from, the beauty of true reality. I find myself just marveling, like looking at the stars and knowing that these stars have seen the rise and fall of so many empires, and that nature is still magical and still sacred, and animals and children. And I just try and surround myself with as much beauty and authenticity as I can. And I really very severely limit my presence in these cities. I just go in and out. I go for our events. We have our weekly activism that we do every Friday. I go there, in and out. And then if we need to go in to get some supplies and shopping, in and out. But I don't hang out there anymore because the energy is, it's not very friendly atmosphere.
Yeah. I have seen that somebody went along the Champs-Élysées after the health pass was needed to go to restaurants, cinemas, and so on. 99% empty, even outside. And before that, whenever you walked along the Champs-Élysées, then it was hard to get a place.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
No longer. No.
Yeah.
So I have seen on your website that you offer consultations and online courses. What are people usually consulting you about? Is it about healing?
Yeah, healing and just kind of general. A lot of people don't actually, they can feel quite alone with their experience. So they may be the only one in their workplace who know what's going on, and they may struggle with that, feeling isolated, or it's kind of like consultations and sort of kind of therapy coaching that I give. Yeah.
And you have also online courses for activists. What do you do?
Yeah, so this one, I've made a self-study course, so anyone can watch it. It's over 9 hours of material. I've really put together, I think, quite a wholesome package for anyone. It doesn't matter if you're experienced or a beginner, but it's all about examining the archetype of the activist and the kind of the mission of the activist from a very spiritual perspective. So I see the activist as the community healer. And so it has a lot of elements of that inner work that we were talking about, the shadow work. So talking about emotional intelligence, communication. I also go into kind of the spiritual laws of creation, so natural law. We talk about our natural rights, and then just very practical things as well, like good strategies for organizing events, all the different, methods that you can have a nonviolent liberation strategy, how to face the police, talk about laws. So it's a very holistic package to give people inspiration and knowledge and equip them to be able to go on the street and confidently talk to people.
Yeah. And it gives me really hope knowing that people like you are still out there. And I think we need more people on board. Yeah, especially when it comes to subjects like healing our own trauma. And so that, because the way I see it right now, very disturbed people are telling other disturbed people what to do. It's not surprising that does not work.
Just chaos.
One troubled soul is consoling the other troubled soul.
I know. Nightmare. Blind leading the blind. Yeah.
So Henna, would you like to leave us with a thought, something that I have not addressed, what you feel is important right now?
What would I say? Yeah, I think we know enough. you know, those of us who know what's going on, that we know enough, and to really be conscious of the content that we are taking in now at this point, being aware that our diet is not just the food we take in, but the energy and the information we take in, and that we become what we take in. So if we stare into the void and into the darkness long enough, it will start gnawing away at our inner light, our inner peace. So really, I would say, like, minimize at this point the amount of negative news that we take in, and just trust that we already know the plan, we know what they're trying to do, and just channel our energy into things that restore us. So, you know, creativity, spiritual practice, you know, being in nature, doing the things that give you joy, basically, just really allowing yourself to have that time every day so that you are charged with vitality and joy and, you know, high frequency, and focus on the solutions, you know, what we can do, and kind of try and step away from this mentality of a battle and go more into a kind of idea of creation. What can we create? And there's so much that we can do with, you know, even just a few handful of people. We can start a little community of our own and start, you know, skills, what skills we can have for future, you know, practical skills. Maybe it's pottery, maybe it's, you know, like sewing. It's really like return to the true human life. I feel that this is an opportunity to take us into. So yeah, to really just let's guard our inner peace and not allow this, you know, vision that they're trying to manifest through all this propaganda. Let's not allow that to take seed in our consciousness, but focus for us what we want, and then, you know, put most of our energy into that, into solutions and creation, rather than battling the you know, the old. Pull our energy out of that, and then it will eventually collapse.
Of course, it has to.
Yeah.
Everybody collapses and everything collapses if it doesn't get any energy.
That's it. I see it as a very, you know, insatiable force. So it's a thirst that can never be quenched. And the more we take our energy out, it's kind of like a parasite. It will eventually end up eating itself or starving. So it's our consent that is the food for it. So as long as, you know, we take our consent away, withdraw our consent, and start creating a parallel society, then it will lose that force that it has no energy of its own. So it needs to hijack it from others. So we just need to pull out of that and just focus on, yeah, the beauty that we want to bring into this plane of being.
Thank you so much, Henna. That was really a delight. I enjoyed it very much. And yeah, one day I hope you will come back, and I wish you all the best with all your undertakings. And hope
Thank you.
That
it's been really wonderful to chat with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And yeah, so guys, that was it. Night flight for today with the wonderful Henna Maria Vermeulen. And we see you all next time. Stay safe from tyranny and stay sound out there. Bye-bye.